2026. Got it. Okay. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's webinar on navigating conflicts in government, the challenges and solutions. I'm delighted to be your host. My name is Rowan, and I'm joined by Josh and Riley. And I'll let them introduce themselves properly now.
How's it, guys? I'm Josh. Along with Riley and Rowan, we'll be discussing about the conflict in governments and how we can fix them and what's needed to be done to cope through it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Riley, and I will be discussing the significance of conflict management and strategies to help you resolve conflict. Thank you.
So, I'm excited to delve into the topic that holds significant relevance in today's dynamic political landscape. In the realm of governance, conflicts are not merely occasional disruptions, but an integral aspect that shapes decision-making, processes, policies, and the overall function of the government. From ideological differences to power struggles, conflict can arise at various levels, posing challenges and demand accurate handling and resolution. So, why does this topic matter? Understanding conflict in government is crucial for several reasons. First and foremost, for the directly influence the effectiveness of governance, determining whether policies are implemented seamlessly or face substantial resistance. Additionally, the ability to manage and resolve conflict is a hallmark of robust and adaptive political systems. So, in an era characterized by rapid socio-economic change, technology advancements, and global interconnectedness, governments must navigate an increasingly complex landscape. This complexity often gives rise to differing opinions, priorities, resulting in conflict that is, if left unaddressed, can undermine the very foundation of a stable and functional government. So, with this in mind, do we have any questions for the above?
Yes. Why is it important for us to grasp the dynamics of conflict in government?
Well, understanding conflict is vital because it directly shapes how well a government functions, influencing the execution of policies and highlighting the adaptability of the political system. And any other questions?
One more. What is at risk if conflicts within government structures are ignored?
So basically, if there are unresolved conflicts, they have the potential to erode the very foundations of a stable and functional government, emphasizing the need for proactive resolution and collaboration. And I hope those answered your questions. And let's start with what we shall expect from today. So, throughout this webinar, we will explore the root causes of conflict in government, analysis of government conflict and how it impacts the public, the significance of conflict management, a discussion of strategies for conflict resolution. So let's buckle up for this insightful journey into the realm of governance conflict, where we'll uncover the challenges and possibly identify potential solutions. So without further ado, let's dive into navigating conflict in government. I will now hand it over to Josh.
Okay, so we'll be discussing the root causes of government conflict. With the points below here, there's political corruption, economic inequality, ethnic and religious tensions, historical grievances, social unrest, and external influences. So to further elaborate on these points, with political instability, when people in charge fight for control, it makes things shaky and unstable. This can cause confusion, change the rules, and problems that's how problems in many countries start. With corruption, when leaders care more about themselves than helping everyone else, it makes people not want to trust the government or the community that they trust in. This can lead to unfair rules and policies that help only a few people and not everyone else. In economic inequality, when people have a lot, others don't have enough, it makes society split. This can cause unhappiness and fights. It's important to make sure that everyone has a fair chance. With ethnic and religious tensions, if people don't get along because of the differences, like where they grew up, what religion they follow, it can turn into fights. It may have better rules to include everyone and promote such that they understand it and they work together in a unison. With historical grievances, old problems like fights over land or past wrongs can make people angry for a long time. We need to talk about these problems and find ways to make things better so that everything else can work work better. Social unrest, when people are unhappy with how things are run, they might protest. This leads to deeper problems and need fixing to keep everyone stable. External influences, where the countries involve other businesses to make problems worse. This makes problems worse. We need to be careful and use diplomacy to manage outside pressure. So we'll move on to the next slide. Okay, so analysis of the government conflict and how it impacts on the public. So with economic instability, social disruption, humanitarian crises, psychological toll, erosion of trust, political polarization, and disruption of services. The further discussion on these here, with economic impact, political problems make it rough for people to find jobs and earn money, causing more poverty. Social disruptions, fights disrupt daily life, stopping things like businesses and schools, and breaks up communities. With humanitarian crisis, long-term fighting leads to big problems. Not enough food, water, or doctors make people suffer and move away. And the psychological toll it has on people, living in a scary place messes the people's heads, causing worry, sadness, fear for them and their family, erosion of trust. So the erosion of trust, when leaders are dishonest, people stop trusting the government, the groups that they go to help fix problems that they have. So we need fairness and honesty to fix those. In the political polarization, people split into groups that don't talk nicely, make problems bigger, and sometimes cause fights. This disruption of services, unstable times means people get less help, like it's harder to access hospitals, schools, and make it unfair for everyone else besides the rich. So after discussing all of this, does anyone have any questions?
I just have two questions now. So firstly, what is the potential psychological impact of constant instability and fearful boundless conflict?
Okay, with that question, the psychological toll of political conflict can manifest as stress, anxiety, trauma. It can affect mental well-being of the public and people around them. Any other questions?
And then secondly, how can government conflict contribute to humanitarian crisis?
The government conflict may lead to displacement, lack of access to healthcare, and food insecurity, creating humanitarian crisis that adversely affects public health and well-being. Does that answer your question perfectly?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Now we'll be moving on to Riley. We'll discuss the next points.
Okay, so first we'll be discussing the significance of conflict management. So the first one we'll be doing is improve communication. Improved communication is really important when it comes to conflict management, as it requires you to express your concerns. It also requires you to listen actively to others and work towards the resolution. If you engage in this process, it overall improves your communication skills and leads you to a better collaboration and understanding. So it's really important to have the skill when it comes to solving problems. It's the main thing is to express yourself, get your point across the room. Secondly, we will be doing enhanced relationships. When it comes to relationships in conflict management, we deal with two, which is personal and professional. When it comes to personal relationship, it's something that's unavoidable. It happens daily in our lives. So how we handle this determines the health and the longevity of the relationship. If we do this effectively, it fosters understanding, it helps us to empathize and compromise. It also, if you do this correctly, it helps you to become more stronger and make your relationship more resilient. But now that we deal with professional relationships, we cannot let our personal relationship affect our professional relationship. It's because if we do this, it creates a lot of conflict among colleagues. It it does not help people to work properly. It reduces the morale, and overall it decreases productivity. So it's important that you approach the relationship carefully and that you use a bit of communication skills, like I mentioned before, active listening. It's important to listen. So once you do all this here, it will help people to improve relationships personally and professionally. Next, you'll be doing is increase productivity. So I covered most of it in relationships because relationships affect the way we do things. So addressing conflicts and finding resolutions for them. And when it comes to teams and individuals, it helps redirect their energy and focus towards the goals and leading into increased productivity. So most of it has been discussed in relationships. The next part is increased innovation and creativity. When it comes to innovation and creativity, it's important that it's brought up to the table because this leads to a generation of new ideas. It also helps us to find different ways to resolve things. Effective conflict management relating to innovation and creativity allows for positive aspects of conflict to be harnessed for the benefit of health and individuals as well as organizations. The next part we'll be doing is strategies of conflict resolution. So can we move on to the next slide, please? So when it comes to strategies of conflict resolution, we look at active listening, we look at accountability and responsibility, open communication, common ground, and the takeaway from the conflict. So when it comes to active listening, it's important to ensure that all parties feel involved, they feel understood. It's important to allow them to speak, get the message across the room. It's also important to repeat back from what you heard to confirm the understanding. And it's also important to avoid interrupting the person, as letting them speak allows them to express the thoughts fully and get feedback in a positive way, in a respectful way too. When it comes to accountability and responsibility, it's often confused. Responsibility is when a task is given to someone and it's their duty to fulfill that task, to complete it. But when it comes to accountability, it's important for that person or that group or organization to accept what they have done, whether it's positive or negative. So it's really important. This is a really important strategy to learn, as it takes a lot of courage and strong will to accept what you have done, whether it's good or bad. Now, when it comes to open communication, it's important to encourage open and honest communication because it allows you to express your own thoughts and your feelings clearly and respectfully. If you use statements such as I or we or you always, I feel, things like that, it shows meaning, it shows purpose, it shows that you are trying to change something for the better. The next part is common ground. Now, common ground is achieved when people are able to express their thoughts, but it's a portion of everyone's thoughts and what they bring to the table. Common ground is something that everyone agrees on and everyone finds fairness in that plan or whatever they talking about, that conflict. And the last part of strategies of conflict resolution will be the takeaway from it, what people learn from the conflict. So when you view a conflict, it's important to look back at it and realize the opportunities of growth and learning. If you identify the lessons that you have learned from them, it can be applied to future conflicts, or you can even prevent conflicts. So it's important to look back, even discuss with people who you brought this conflict up with, and this allows you to grow as a person and help you to increase your relationships, your communication, and allows you to become a better person as a whole. So if there's any questions about anything here, please let me know.
So my question is, why is it important to manage conflict?
So conflict is really important to manage. Well, it's really essential because it helps us to create a positive work environment. It also allows us to communicate better and overall boost productivity and boost us as people. But also remember that conflict management is not about avoiding a conflict. It's about dealing with it in a constructive and respectful manner. So if that answers it, please let me know.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, for our conclusion, in summary, our exploration in this multifaceted realm of conflicts within government structures has shed light on inherent complexities, from the ideological differences, the power struggles, to the ever-evolving socio-political landscape. Conflicts are not mere hurdles, but integral components that demand astute management. Crucially, we've underscored the paramount importance of effective conflict resolution, emphasizing that it is not only a means to ensure that the stability and functionality of the government, but also a catalyst for growth and innovation. So, as we conclude, the call to action is clear. Let us carry forward the lessons learned today into an active and ongoing exploration and discussion. So, before we end, is there any other questions?
Mr. Rowans, got a question for you. What factors contribute to conflicts within government structures?
Yes.
Yeah, that's my question for you.
Well, all right. So, conflicts arise from ideological differences, power struggles, and the ever-changing socio-political landscape. Well, I feel that these factors contribute to the most to conflict within the government. So does that answer your question?
Most definitely answered my question. Thank you.
All right. Before we leave, I would like to send out a small survey for you all to answer. It won't take more than 2 minutes. And I just want to thank you once again for providing us with your time. And yeah, thanks you so much.